please welcome David Hutton, Managing Director at Rimfire Pacific Mining, a great company with another great New South Wales company, dare I say, with projects in the Central West and Broken Hill. Over to you, David.
Great, thanks Lucy, and I'm always very conscious when I'm the last person standing between all of you and the drinks. I'll keep this really short. I don't want to be trampled in the stampede. Rimfire Pacific Mining, we're an ASX-listed exploration company. We've been in existence for over 20 years. We're wholly focused in New South Wales and we offer a very unique commodity mix. Our commodities are scandium, cobalt, both cobalt and laterites and cobalt and sulfides, and also in the PGEs as well. I'm just going to get this to work, there we go. The disclaimer. So in terms of investment highlights, as I said, we're one of the few companies here. Everything we do is focused in New South Wales. We have two centres of operations. First of all, in the far west of the state, out at Broken Hill, and also about 70 kilometres west to northwest of Parkes in the Fifield district as well. We're exploring for high grade, and I emphasise the word high grade, scandium, cobalt and PG deposits. One of the things that characterises Rimfire is that we've been operating in the Fifield area and the Parkes district for over 20 years. We have very well established relationships with all the local landowners. We actually own a lot of the land in our own right that we operate on, which gives us certain advantages. And the exploration team that we have engaged are responsible for probably 3 or 4 of the major porphyry copper gold discoveries in the Lachlan origin over the last 20 years. And so we very unapologetically retain a whole group of semi-retired geologists to work with our young geologists to make sure we deliver technical excellence into the ground. We're very, very busy with a lot of news flow, and we've got a lot of news flow and high impact work programs coming up over the next 6 months. In terms of the projects, and I'll very much focus on scandium today because scandium is a fairly unique commodity, not very well understood, but we do have 4 projects. So the Fifield Avondale project, scandium, cobalt and PGEs, as I say, focused on the Fifield district, 70 kilometres northwest of Parkes. Everything we do out at Fifield Avondale is funded by our exploration partner. So you'll see our cash position later on, and remember that whatever you see for our cash position, we have a joint venture partner funding all this additional activity in the scandium space. We have the cobalt sulfide project out at Broken Hill. Essentially, we're trying to do what Cobalt Blue is doing with cobalt sulfides, but importantly, everything that we've drilled to date is at a grade of 2 to 3 times greater than what Cobalt Blue is doing, and we're quite deliberately building a counter-cyclic high-grade cobalt sulfide play. We want Broken Hill be ready to go when the cobalt price returns in the next couple of years. This project will be ripe for commercialisation. We have a very large project that we've recently added to adjacent to the Cowal Gold Mine in the southern end of the Lachlan origin. We've got multiple porphyry and epithermal copper gold targets there. We're currently looking for an exploration partner, so that's of your interest. Come and see me and I've got a project for you. And we also have a small copper project, 100% owned, just near the little town of Trundle, next to some ground held by Kincora. But what I'll do with the time owing to me, I'll focus very much on the scandium. And as you can see by the share price on the right-hand side, our market cap, we've currently got a market cap of about $88 million. We've taken the share price from ½ cent to 4.1 cents in the space of 6 to 8 months. And the reason for that, and you can see the corresponding jump in liquidity in the bottom right-hand side as well, the reason for that is probably fourfold. We did multiple capital raisings over the last 12 months. Each raising was at a premium to our share price, which was nice. There was some corporate uncertainty with one of our shareholders, creating some humbug and mischief for us last year. We had about 3 Section 249Ds lodged against the company. Every one of those we smashed away with 80% support for the incumbent board, including myself. We started to really get onto the scandium story. We started to really publicise and educate the market around scandium. And in the middle of that, and just corresponding to the kick up here, we saw Rio Tinto develop a specialist scandium business unit to get into scandium in Australia and also in North America. And they bought the project that adjoins our project. And as you'll see, We've very much got the premier land position with Rio as our neighbours. Our cash at the end of the quarter was $1.2 million, but that excludes all of the additional funding that's coming in from the joint venture partners. We also, the other point I should make mention of too, is that we have a lot of options that are out there. All of those options are currently in the money. The option prices, the exercise prices range from 1.25 cents to 2 cents, and with the current share price of 4 cents and holding, as you can imagine, there is quite a few option holders that are now looking to exercise those options. In terms of the exploration team, I mentioned before that this team has found pretty much all of the deposits of note in the Parkes area. So Michael Love, Dr. Michael Love, basically you might be saying he's at retirement age, but he's, as part of the GeoPico exploration team, was responsible for the discovery of Lake Cal, North Parkes, and also the Dubbo project that Alkane now holds. Paul Wright up the top there, he was involved with the discovery and delineation of Cadia East. Our exploration manager, Peter Crowhurst, was heavily involved with porphyry copper gold searches and PNG. He was Nautilus doing seabed massive sulfides, and also spent time at CSIRO. And Wolfgang Ley in the bottom right-hand side, he's been working in Broken Hill for 40 years, and what he doesn't know about Broken Hill geology is not worth talking about. And some of the sulfide targets we've been chasing up in Broken Hill, he's been waiting 40 years to drill. So it's been quite a pleasure working with these guys. But let's talk about scandium. Not many people know much about the scandium market. Suffice to say that the principal uses of scandium, it's used to create an incredible metal alloy with aluminium. It generates an alloy that is super lightweight, super strong, has all these amazing properties that makes it very amenable for 3D printing, welding, and all these applications. It's being pursued heavily by the manufacturers of shipbuilding, naval craft. All the aircraft manufacturers want to get into scandium. The big growth in the use of scandium will come from its implementation as a catalyst in the production of hydrogen, so in solid oxide fuel cells. The issue with scandium, though, it's a very small, opaque market. There's only a global tonnage that's used every year of about 40 tonnes. And when you consider the value of scandium, so right now, scandium, based on pricing data that you can get from the US government, scandium is worth about 3 times the price of gold at the current market. While there's only 40 tonne of this material consumed every year, the biggest problem and the fundamental problem with scandium, and this is where Rimfire and the New South Wales location comes into play, is that the growth of scandium, its adoption in all these technologies, it's supply constrained. And the biggest constraint on scandium is geopolitical risk. The US and its allies are 100% reliant on China, Russia, and to a latter degree the Philippines, on the supply of all its scandium. There are various stories out there about the CIA and Black Ops building up stockpiles of scandium for critical mineral reserves in the US. I don't know whether that's true, but it makes a great story. But what we do know is that the US government is out there, along with people like Boeing, Airbus, all these industries, defence forces worldwide. They're looking to generate supplies, long-term supplies of scandium in favourable jurisdictions. And don't take my word for it, take Rio's word for it. They've just set up a brand new scandium business unit called Element North 21. They've got a website, you can have a look at it. And they're out to basically become the Western government's preferred supplier of scandium. They've got 2 operations. One of them is in Quebec, and the second operation is right next door to our ground here at Fifield. So Australia is a favourable jurisdiction for scandium. So where in Australia do you look for scandium? There's really 2 schools of thought here. You can turn to the West Australian rare earth explorers who will always talk about their 40 to 50 ppm scandium as a byproduct of their rare earths, or you can go to what is the epicentre for scandium in Australia, which is the Parkes district of New South Wales. And here we talk grades of anything from 3 to 6 to 800 ppm scandium. So the epicentre for scandium in Australia is 300 kilometres west of here in the Parkes district. I probably underestimated that. The largest, highest grade scandium deposits pretty much in the world, certainly in Australia, are all situated in this area just outside of Parkes. It's a very small area and it's dominated by 2 large companies, Rio Tinto and Sunrise Energy Metals, which is a company associated with Robert Friedland. The third company that's actively exploring in there is Rimfire. This map shows the tenement holdings. So we have Rimfire in red, we have Sunrise in green, and we have Rio in blue. So this purchase by Rio last year from Platina Resources of the Owendale deposit, they spent $14 million US. That is Rio's first foot into the global scandium market. One of the things that contrasts the Rimfire ground to the Rio ground is that Rimfire's activities are focused on the Owendale deposit. It's a single deposit project. We have a 55-kilometre long belt extending from the southern end to the northern end that runs through our ground. This belt is comprised of multiple Ordovician-aged mafic ultramafic intrusions, the so-called Alaskan Ural-style mafic ultramafic intrusion. And this is important because it's these ultramafic rocks as the source of the scandium. And as I say, we are unique on the ASX. We're the only ASX-listed junior company that's in this scandium space, where scandium is the primary commodity, operating amongst the big boys pursuing high-grade scandium. And everything that we do here on the red tenements, all of the scandium exploration, we also have a platinum position out here, as well as cobalt, there's gold, other commodities as well. But everything we do out here is funded by our joint venture partners. Golden Plains Resources, a private company. I talked about this 55-kilometre long corridor. This is a very crude magnetic image, but basically all of the sort of the magnetic blips you see through this corridor, these are all these little intrusive complexes. There's a couple of broad complexes here, which host the Burra deposit, which is the old Owendale deposit of Rio, and also the Sunrise, or the old Cleantech deposit of Sunrise as well. What we are doing is we are deliberately building a pipeline of advanced scandium prospects. So we're busy. We've delineated 5 prospects to date. We start resource drilling on the Melrose prospect starting Thursday, and the aim is to build a pipeline of targets right under Rio's nose. In terms of the geology, it's a very simple weathering profile. It's essentially fresh peroxenites here. That's where the scandium is sourced from. You then have weathering and lateritisation of the peroxenite. In the process of the weathering, you see a 5 to 10 times increase in the grade of scandium. So we're typically dealing up here in our project area. We're sort of working in that grade range of anything between sort of 2 to 600 ppm scandium. What we're now starting to see, and we don't really quite know what this means longer term, is we're now starting to get into the low 100, or probably about 150 ppm scandium down here in the basement as well. Globally, it's very rare to see accumulations of scandium at grades greater than 100 ppm. So there's something particularly special about the geology out here. This is Melrose. We start resource drilling on Melrose on Thursday. This will be quite small, but this is quite high grade. This is all subject to the joint venture. We have defined, so this is the magnetic anomaly. This is basically mapping out a basement sequence of peroxenites, dunnites and whirlites. And it's the peroxenite that actually is the source of the scandium. The thing about the scandium in these laterite zones is it extends well beyond the magnetic anomalies. So you can't just use the magnetic anomalies as a proxy for the ultimate size of these deposits. They spread out like a blanket across these things. But you know, we've started here, we've done some diamond drilling into this thing, as well as a whole series of shallow drill programs to get a real sense of what is going on. The challenge with scandium, and I won't sugarcoat it, the biggest challenge, there's no shortage of scandium. It's easy to drill, it's easy to define, the geology is simple. The challenge with scandium is getting it out of the ground. Like all these laterite-hosted deposits, metallurgy is the key. There are 2 routes that you can take if you're trying to extract this stuff. You can go down the high-pressure acid leach route. That's what Sunrise are doing. Rio have got some proprietary black box technique that we can't really quite get a full insight on at the moment. The problem with the high pressure acid leach route is the capital expenditure requirements. And the reason that the Sunrise project is sitting in the ground still is they can't get people to give them the money to get the capital expenditure, to get that project away. We're doing something very different. We're trying to get our recoveries working at atmospheric pressures. This has never been done before for these deposits, so we're putting our own money into this test work. We announced a first pass site to test work results last week, where we're looking at, rather than trying to get an exclusive scandium product, we're trying to get a combined scandium, cobalt and nickel product out of the top of this Melrose prospect. Our first pass work achieved 40% scandium recoveries. We got over 90% of the cobalt out, and we got about 51, 52% of the nickel. We're now going into stage 2 leaching test work with an aim now of focusing exclusively on the scandium. So we're playing around with temperatures, grind sizes, and also acidities as well. As I said, we've got confidence in this. Our joint venture partners have got confidence in this, and we start resource drilling to get a JORC resource Thursday. So what does it look like in cross-section? Once again, a profile that you've seen many times over, but essentially the host rocks are in the purple. Here's your scandium blanket at surface. True widths on that blanket are up to 25 metres in areas. That's the surface. It's a free dig proposition. You can stub your toe on this stuff as you walk through the paddocks. And if you look at some of the grades that are being quoted there, you can see some fairly broad. These are close to true width intercepts on the left-hand side. And there's some very, very impressive grades. And these grades are comparable to the grades that Rio are dealing with up the road there at Burra. So we have done some deep diamond drilling into this, as well as all the shallow RC work. On Thursday, we start our resource drill out, and we hope to have a maiden resource on this before the end of the financial year. And having a resource is really important from a junior company perspective, and it's not about the marketing, but what a resource does, it gets us on the radar of all the critical minerals agencies of the federal government. If you want to get into the critical minerals prospectus that the federal government puts out every year, which means access to federal government funding, you've got to have a JORC resource to trigger the process. And that'll be one of the benefits of this work that we're doing. So Melrose by itself is small. We're talking about a 3 square kilometre area. Sitting right next door to Melrose is the Murga intrusive complex. I don't name these things, I just inherit them. But this is the Murga, what we call the Murga scandium prospect. By prospect, it's it's in excess of 20 square kilometres. So you imagine a blanket that's 20 square kilometres in dimension. And everywhere you drill this blanket to date, it's mineralised with scandium. So whereas Melrose is the grade, this will be the tonnes. And combined, this will start to look really significant. We've only finished last week, and we announced that we put an exploration update out this morning. We've just finished drilling 100 air core holes over this area. So this is a very confused diagram. There's a better version in today's AXX release. But basically this yellow dashed outline over the magnetics is the outline of the intrusive complex as we know it. You won't be able to read it, certainly if your eyes are as bad as mine, but each one of these little dots here is actually a value. This is auger geochemistry, but what you'll see associated with a few of these magnetic areas are these auger geochemical anomalies. And these are the sort of the epicenters or hotspots of the scandium. We've just drilled 100 air core holes across this thing to start to give us an idea of continuity and what we're dealing with. This will need another program and probably another RC and diamond drill program at the end of the day. But what we're hoping to achieve here in conjunction with Melrose is that we're going to be able to start building this pipeline. So we've got 5 of these, okay, over this 55-kilometre belt. We're also in the background, we are building up this pipeline to targets. And to give you an idea of how big these things are, so Melrose that we've just been speaking about, resource drilling starting on Thursday, 3.5 square kilometre blanket sitting on top of the mag anomaly. That is Melrose at the same scale as Murga. So Murga, I mean, you can tell me how many of those things you can fit into those things. So, we can generate tonnes and grade pretty quickly. Metallurgy is still the key, and we're trying to advance on all these fronts. So super busy. There's lots of news happening here. In terms of the scandium, we've already released the first lot of metallurgical work. We've got additional test work underway right now, which will continue all through the March and the June quarters. The drill out, the resource drill out for Melrose will start on Thursday. We aim to have the resource. We've got everything. We've got all the consultants, all the competent persons are all engaged. We should have the maiden resource by the end of June. We have a regional targeting exercise underway. We have gone and so far we've scanned 3,500 historic drill samples across the entire 55-kilometre area to build this target pipeline. We've just finished the 100-hole air core program at the Murga. Those results will come out in the next probably 4 weeks, depending on lab turnaround times. The other part of the talk that I haven't got time to go through talks about our cobalt and copper projects. We've recently expanded quite significantly the size of the cobalt project. We've got diamond drilling planned in there. We're looking to divest the Cal copper project. We can't do it all. So finally, the key takeaways. We're a unique company in a unique commodity set. We offer unique ASX scandium exposure. We're operating and focused within the scandium epicentre of New South Wales. We've got a very, very experienced team. We like to sit around and have billies of tea and talk geology and talk to the landowners. We go to church every Tuesday night, which if you're in Fifield, Tuesday night church is going to the pub just to talk to the landowners. It's an important part of our social engagement. We have multiple scandium prospects. Everything is at surface. We're building this target pipeline. Importantly, we may not be successful, but you've got to give it a go. We're really pushing hard on these low capex metallurgical solutions to get this material out of the host rock. We've got a very supportive exploration partner, GPR, who's funding all our scandium exploration. Very busy, high impact work programs over the next 6 months. And as you can see from the share price, a lot of supportive shareholders and the market is really liking what we're doing. I thank you for your time. It must be getting close to drinks. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you, David. We do have time for one or two very quick questions. Any questions from the floor? One at the back there. Just if you could wait for the microphone, that would be great. Thank you. So we have the video.
Does the truth change after prayers at the church on Tuesday night?
Well, I'm not sure how to answer that. Does the truth change after prayers at church on Tuesday night? Well, at Rimfire, we have a no drinking if you're driving policy, so I never drink, so my truth doesn't change. But yeah, from the locals, it changes considerably. Yeah. You don't have a farm in Fifield by any chance, do you?
Excellent. Okay, thank you. Any other quick questions?
How does your grade?
Just if you can hold for the microphone, that would be great. Thank you.
How does your grade compare to Rio Tinto's?
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very similar. It's shared geology. It's the same sort of weathering profile. So the actual grade of the Rio Tinto resource, it depends on what cut-off grade you use. So I mean, if you drop, like all resources, you drop the cut-off grade. They quote cut-off grade, or they quote resource grades of either 300 ppm or either 600 ppm, and that's exactly what we see at Millrose as well. So that's why at the moment, that's their cut-off grade, that's their resource grades. The size of those, it's quite a large deposit at the moment. We haven't got the size, but we haven't started building our resource base yet, and that's why I think it's important for us. We have this pipeline of targets, and by the time we finish the resource for Melrose and Murga, and there's another thing, Currajong, which has also got a basement PGE position as well, we'll be getting very close to them. And I'm not going to give the game away, but we're all working in the same area. So, the geologists all do get together at church from time to time and have a beer. So I'm sure they're all talking. Thank you.
Excellent. Okay.